This week on the Orange Box podcast, we talk about the Switch 2 Pro Controller support being added to Steam, Death Stranding 2 being rated for PC, the mysterious Game Awards teaser images, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to the new Beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 1183. I am your host, the man whose uncut PC gaming video was 18 hours long, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who could spend 18 hours explaining everything he loves about Expedition 33, Justin, better known as I'm Zaracon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
Oh, it's been a pretty good week, I'd say. So I originally was gonna go to. Originally, my sister said she and her husband were gonna have Thanksgiving dinner, and I was invited. But then, just because of things that were going on, I thought, I probably won't be able to. Probably would be best if I didn't go this year or this time around, and I'll see them during Christmas. But then, so I was like, all right, cool. But the last minute, then they said, we'd really love it if you could come over and stuff, and we'll have everything ready. And so I said, all right, I guess I'll be going there for dinner then. So, went there. Actually went there on Wednesday evening. We had dinner because my brother-in-law works in a hospital, so he was working Thanksgiving Day. So since he wouldn't be there during the evening, we decided to have dinner the day before. So I went there after work. We had dinner together. It was a good time we had there. Spent the night there and was there for the following day as well. Spent some time with the family. Spent some time with my niece and nephew. One thing that we did, which I haven't watched this in ages, was we watched the Macy Day Thanksgiving Parade. And this year they had a Goku balloon, and so my niece and nephew, they're saying, hey Juju, that's the guy who does the Kamehameha. And so they wanted to do the Kamehameha with me, so we sort of did a uncle, niece, nephew, family Kamehameha together. Nice. When that came by. So they definitely enjoyed that, but definitely spent some more time with everyone. And I helped my sister and them do some Christmas decorating as well, so we did that too. And of course, because I knew they would want that, I brought my Steam Deck and hooked it up so that way they could play some games on there, and I'll go into that later on. But yeah, so after I came back, I knew I would have to go ahead and cook the Thanksgiving food that I originally planned on making. And everything turned out pretty well. I would say the one thing that was a bit disappointing was I originally was going to be making some kale, but because I knew I wasn't going to be there for a while when I originally was going to buy the kale, I decided it might be best to buy some frozen kale rather than buying some fresh kale. And it worked for the most part, although I feel like it ended up being a little bit more bitter than the kale I normally get. But I mean, it wasn't bad overall, but I was just like, I don't, unless I have to, I won't be buying frozen kale again. But yeah, that was that. I finally went back to trying to ripping my Blu-ray drives, DVDs and stuff. And unfortunately, it seems like my Blu-ray drive just isn't being properly recognized. And I've been trying multiple workarounds, going through different forums, trying to figure out what's wrong, what the issue is. Because while it's acknowledged to a degree, it's only be acknowledged as a storage device and not as a type of media player. So I've been really going through everything, and just out of mild curiosity, because I was wondering, is this just like a Linux thing? I plugged it into my old laptop, which had Windows on it, and it seemed to be somewhat following the same kind of problems I was having, so I'm not certain what the issue is. I might try to find one more workaround that I've seen, and if that doesn't work, then I'm not certain what I'll do at that point, but that's something that I've just been working on. And then lastly, I mentioned this to you before, but my VR headset came in and I gave it a whirl. Now, it's partially as complicated and partially not as complicated as I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
So, you do of course have to plug in the VR headset to your computer and stuff, and you also have, at least if you buy the full package. If you not, you'll have to buy these separately. You'll have to get at least 2 of these little receivers, which you'll need just so like for tracking everything. And strangely enough, they don't actually have to be plugged into anything apart from a wall outlet. So I'm like, that's cool that you don't have to like have extra cables running around. But the bad thing is, the way I have things set up right now, I have to run, just because they use those large blocks for the power, I have to run all 3 things, the headset and the 2 receivers, into 3 separate power strip / outlets, just because of all of the other stuff I have plugged in that's just really complicated. So I really dislike the fact that that's an issue. Additionally, like, it has like multiple things. You have to plug the headset into a USB 3 port, which I mean most motherboards and stuff have USB 3.0, so that's not an issue. That also requires a DisplayPort as well, which for most people I think is fine, but I didn't realize until I was actually plugging this in and setting everything up that my graphics card only has 1 DisplayPort. It has 2 HDMI ports, but only has 1 DisplayPort, which I don't know why that's the case, considering the fact that this is a modern GPU that came out May. So why that's the case, I have no idea. So I had to end up plugging it, or finding an HDMI cable that was long enough to plug into my GPU, and then unplug the DisplayPort so I could use for the headset. Now, the headset, it's pretty comfy enough. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I might have to adjust, like some of, I guess, the lens and stuff like that, as far as like how far away they are, because it just seemed a bit, it was comfortable enough, but I thought it could be better. Now, one thing that I was wrong about was I thought that the earphones were pretty much just completely covering your ears, but they actually have a little slider. I don't know how well you can see it, but that you can just flip up and down.
Yeah.
So like, it's not actually that bad, I guess you could say. Additionally, I don't know if it's just this headset in particular, or if it's just me having issues with like the sound, but they aren't that loud either, which is good if you want to be like paying attention to everything in the background. But on the other hand, I had to crank everything up just so I could hear the audio coming in at a decent level. So like that, I guess, would be like the one major downside to this. But I mean, overall, it's okay, but it could be better. And if I use it right now, I will have to constantly set up the everything, just because I have to go ahead and prepare all the outlets for the receivers and the headset. I have to go ahead and pull out my computer so that I can properly set up the HDMI ports, cable and stuff. And additionally, while you could technically have both receivers on a desk, it makes calibrating everything a bit clunky, just because I actually had to calibrate everything twice, just because the first time it had everything set much lower than it should be. So when you start up the Steam VR, you're sort of like in this playroom and stuff, and I'm halfway through the floor just because of how everything's calibrated. So it thinks I'm lower than I am. But then once I recalibrated, it was fine. But unfortunately, at the same time, when I had everything set up, I don't think I had enough space, so I essentially had to reach further just to touch stuff
Mm,
uh, that I probably should have or could have had to do it. So unless I decide to either use the wall mount and just drill some holes and like set the receivers up that way,
mm-hmm.
I would just have to try to properly set things up and work things around that way. But I'll see how that goes. I don't know what'll happen right now, but that's just how they are. But yeah, that is essentially everything that's happened to me this past week.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing about the VR game I know you played this week, and sounds like a very interesting experience and more reason why I'm glad I didn't get an index. But yeah. All right. In terms of my week, nothing overly exciting. I mean, obviously we had Thanksgiving, made several things for that. Cornbread stuffing and turkey stuffing, and smoked a couple turkeys. Made some from scratch green bean casserole as well. We did the sausage and cream cheese stuffed crescent rolls for our traditional Thanksgiving breakfast, which was delicious. The turkeys, one of them ended up a little on the dry side. It wasn't like bad or anything, but it was a little drier than I prefer. And then the second one ended up a lot more juicy, so it was good. And but yeah, overall everything came out well. Had a good time with family and stuff, and so that was all good. Trying to think here. I ended up just spending a lot of time visiting with family, especially since my younger sister and her family were out visiting. So we went over to my older sister's house since they were staying there, and both for Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving, and then I think actually no, that's wrong. It was Thanksgiving and then Saturday as well, but we went over on Friday to my other sister's house. And unfortunately, because my younger sister's daughters are still at the age where they need naps and that sort of thing, I didn't get to see her on Friday, but at least got to see her those days. And then she and her husband stopped by this afternoon or this morning, and they're heading back home tomorrow. So there's that. Let's see here. Trying to think if there's anything really of note. Thankfully Sunday was able to just get lots of rest, which is good because I was a little worn out from the previous days. Even though I didn't do a ton, it was still just like more than anything because of the fact that we had so much social time, and of course being introverts, it's like after a while you just kind of need a breather. So it was good having Sunday to just, after church we just rested and didn't go anywhere, and that was helpful. And this coming week, we have a Christmas party for church tomorrow, and I and the main leader are going to be leading a few songs there for the Christmas party. And then I'm also leading at church on Sunday the next, at least this week, I would assume probably the next 3 weeks. But we'll be short on vocalists at least this week, so it'll be just me, one other gal singing, and then my wife will be playing, and then one of the guys will be playing bass. So yeah, doing Christmas songs has never been my favorite thing, but it's mostly just because they're not written for guitar, and so it's trying to find songs that are written, I mean, that work with guitar, that don't have a million chords, because most of them are written for piano, and also finding something that isn't just about cute little baby Jesus, but is about why Jesus came and that sort of thing. And so, and then also trying to pick stuff that's familiar and all that. So it's a fun balancing act, fun quotes, but either way, yeah, it'll be good. So I feel like there's something I'm forgetting about, but I think really everything else is just related to actually playing games, so we'll get to that. But what have you been playing this week?
So I'll just go ahead and quickly knock these two out of the way. Played some Stardew Valley with them since that was pretty much a given. Did a little bit of Cuphead with my nephew just because he wanted to play that. I set everything to easy, but at the same time, he still has to learn how to properly have better reaction times with stuff. So I had to revive him a couple times during matches as much as I could before I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I cannot revive you at this point. But one of the games we played was Overcooked 2, and this is a game that I played one time before a couple years ago at a friend's house, and I was surprised that they wanted to play this, but I thought, okay, that'll be interesting. Now, the footage you're seeing here is not us playing, it's just me playing way after the fact, and it was interesting how things went, because I was trying to explain to them what you're supposed to do, because this is a game that really involves cooperation, especially if you're playing with more people. I mean, you could definitely play the game by yourself, as you can see, but I think the game is best played when you're playing it with others. I think the more people you have playing, the more fun it is, just because I know from previous experience, it gets way more chaotic and hectic as you get further into the game. So I knew we wouldn't get that far, but I was really trying to tell them, like, okay, we all should do something in particular so that way we can all be efficient with getting our orders in, you know, like say like, okay, you go get this ingredient and chop up this, and I'll take care of making the rice. And at first that's what was happening, but then my nephew, he just wanted to do stuff, and so then my niece started wanting to do stuff, and so I was trying to just, okay, I'm gonna try to like keep everything together as best as I can. And that helped carry us through the first few levels, but then after that point, we weren't able to get a single dish out just because they kept taking all the plates, and then I'm trying to get the ingredients and everything, and so at that point I knew, yeah, we're probably not going to be playing too much more of this. But yeah, the game's definitely good and definitely fun, and I think, like I said, it's really best played with friends. So like if, you know, you have like some sort of party going on, this would definitely be a great game for everyone to play together. But I went back and played some more Batman Arkham Asylum, because I still want to go ahead and, while this is going to be difficult, I want to get all the achievements for the game, so I think that was going to be the most possible, it's going to be the one that has the most potential for me to do. So I've been making some more progress with the story. I know at least with this one, the reason I'm really replaying the game right now is just because I want to get I never beat the game on hard difficulty, so I'm trying to get that out of the way. And there's one thing that I will also add is, initially I didn't realize that the game was capped at 60. I was trying to figure out, okay, how can I, uncap it? And apparently it seems to be locked unless you try to go through the config files, and I've gone through several different methods and haven't gotten it to work yet. So I'm still going to try to mess around and see if I can get that to work, because I know the Switch, the Switch 2 probably could do it, definitely, but at least the Steam Deck definitely would be able to get 90, I would say, in that game. And I mean, on my desktop, I should easily be able to like get 165 and max out my refresh rate. So I would like to do that, but it's just a matter of actually getting it to work. But I mean, 60 is fine. But, I would like to take it higher. But then, one other Batman game I played was Batman Arkham VR. And this is not completely what I was expecting, to a degree. And I mean, I don't know if this is partially also a VR type of thing, and maybe it just might be with this game in particular. But this one's more of it's less of an action game and more of an adventure, not necessarily point and click. Well, I guess a point and click to a degree, because you're mostly doing puzzle work, you're mostly doing investigative work, and you're also
Mm-hmm.
doing more so just analysis. So it's mainly doing the type of stuff you would do in an Arkham game where you're trying to, do forensics and examine crime scenes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there is one, I don't know if this happens again later on, but at least early in the game, there's one crime scene in particular, and I kept it out because this would be a major spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one crime scene, and I'm just like, all right, this is actually pretty cool. Like, it's taking the same thing that you would see in the other Arkham games, and I think, to the degree, at least from my memory, how crime scenes were set up in Arkham Origins, with how you would replay a crime scene and rewind it and try to, like,
Mm-hmm.
analyze everything, and I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. I like it. I mean, I think that the hints they give you are kind of a bit too hand-holdy, because they're like
Mm-hmm.
saying, all right, figure out this, this, and this. I'm like, it's pretty obvious, but I like how you could like analyze things and walk around and look at how everything played out. I thought that was pretty cool. And like you also are in a morgue, which I do have that footage playing, where you are supposed to like scan bodies and try to figure out like, all right, find the piece of shrapnel and stuff, and try to figure out like how to recompile the bomb that went off. So I thought that was cool, but there are other moments where I'm just like, and it's mainly to do with using some of your tools, because unfortunately this is something that really was just tripping me up. Was I kept selecting tools I didn't mean to select, just because whenever you there's a sensor, I think, in the remote, so like whenever you grip the controller, you
Mm-hmm.
automatically grab whatever's in your utility belt. So I might mean to not do anything, but because I actually just like, close my hand around the controller, I accidentally pull out a tool. Or if I'm trying to grab a batarang, I accidentally grab my scanner or accidentally grab my bat claw.
Mm-hmm.
And that has happened multiple times while I was playing, and I'm just like, that's a bit annoying. Additionally, there are a couple instances where I thought, okay, I should be using this tool for this particular scenario, and during both of those instances, the game was like, no, you're not supposed to use this tool. I'm like, why? This makes sense. I should be able to do that, but the game said, no, you're supposed to use this. I'm like, it's kind of a bit of a shoehorn. I mean, I feel like, sure, this is a different type of experience, but one thing about the Arkham games, at least with certain scenarios, is that you can use different tools to achieve a particular outcome. Like, you might get to the same outcome, but you could do a couple different things just to get to that outcome. So I don't like the fact that you have to actually do those particular things, but I mean, it took a little bit of trial and error before I got to work, so it's not too bad. Now, I don't know how long this game is, but I managed to get through probably 4 or 5 different areas and whatnot, so I don't know like how much further I have to get there, but I mean, it's not a bad experience. I mean, I also bought this on during the Steam sale for like $3, so I was like, yeah, I'm not too upset about it, about spending $3 on this, but I'm like, this is good for a tech demo and stuff like that, but like, I would want more out of a Batman game. Especially one thing that I also wasn't too keen of is the fact that to move to different areas, you have to select A. You can't just use, your analog stick to move around. You have to move to a specific point just by selecting it. So I really didn't like that aspect of it, but it's not bad. It's just like, all right, this is good as a tech demo type of thing. But yeah. And that is everything that I have played.
All right. Well, I guess, first of all, since we're already on it, with Arkham VR, I've definitely been curious about this one for a while, and it sounds like, from what I've seen, it kind of seems like it would be an interesting experience, but not necessarily something I'd be super interested in. So, I suppose, like like if I end up getting the the Steam frame, then I may check it out. But otherwise, I'm a bit less interested in it than I would be otherwise. But still, kind of interesting to get a look at it. One question I had about that: is it possible to record the footage to where it's taking up the whole screen, or is it only able to record it in that middle view?
Now I think it might be possible only to record it that way, just because I was curious to know what happened while I was playing the game, at least. And I did see that while you're in Steam VR, there is actually a window showing what's going on in the game, and it was set to that particular like rectangular aspect ratio.
Okay.
Now, I mean, I could try and see if that can be adjusted or anything like that, but that's just how it was set up initially and stuff. So I'd have to tinker around with that and see what happens there.
All right. Cool. Regarding Overcooked, man, this is one of those games that like I look at it and I just can't help but get stressed out. It's all the more reason why I don't want to actually like work in / run an actual restaurant, because it just seems way too stressful for me. Like ugh, Giblets. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I definitely have 2 of the Overcooked games that I think I might just have it on GOG and Steam, like just one of them on both. And the only reason I have them is just because they either were games I got for free, or they were like mystery games that I got through one of the Fanatical bundles or something. But yeah. All right. Well, in terms of what I've been playing, there hasn't been a lot of games this week, but I have played a decent amount. So, first of all, I played Forged in Shadow Torch Fist again, and I finished it. I ended up basically just playing on the Steam Deck the rest of the time, and unfortunately, I couldn't quite 100% it, because in order to 100%, you have to be able to do all those combat challenges, or not challenges, but the training challenges. And because of the way the inputs are on that, I didn't even bother trying them too much. I just was not really in the mood to mess with it, because I spent way too much time on it for the few that I completed previously. I may go back and try those on the desktop, because a higher frame rate should theoretically make it easier to pull off. But yeah, the annoying thing about that is that you have to complete those in order to get certain abilities obtainable from your skill tree, because there's like a handful of abilities that are just completely locked off, and if you don't complete those challenges. And then also there's an item or 2 that you get that unlocks the door in a specific area, that and that's the only way to unlock that door, which is also needed for that 100% completion. So I'm at 93% completion, and I don't know if I'll go back at some point and try to finish that up. I mean, really, I think it's just going to depend on whether or not I find it any easier to complete those training challenges when playing on my PC instead of on the Steam Deck. So, but for now, I've stopped playing. Some of those boss fights got really tough, particularly when it came to the certain bosses. Really, what made them hard was just because there'd be a ton of enemies that would pop up during the fight, and really they would be the most difficult part of the fight. And then like the last boss, I won't say who it is or anything, but you fight him twice in a row. So you fight him once, it's a hard fight, and then you go through like a couple of puzzles and stuff, and then you go up and you fight him again, and it's a harder fight. Although I think it took me fewer tries for the second fight than it did for the first one, but it still took me quite a bit. But yeah, either way, I finished it. Great game. Really enjoyed it. Very, very good stuff. So because of that, I busted out my Switch OLED and got to playing some Switch games. So first of all, I was playing some Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I forgot to record any footage on the system itself, but I did end up recording some footage through my capture card, and gave me a chance to test out using that QRD controller for being able to utilize the back buttons and everything, and found it to be pretty useful. This is one game where I think I would actually be fine with just 2 back buttons, which makes me wish that the Switch 2 Pro controller worked on it, because it would be perfect for that. Because really, I just want it for being able to scroll between attacks. It just makes it easier than using the D-pad. But either way, it worked fine. And I didn't play a ton of that, but it's mostly because I got sidetracked by a different game. So I had been watching... I had just come across various lore videos and stuff in my YouTube feed, and specifically some stuff related to Final Fantasy VIII. And I was just like, I kind of in the mood to play Final Fantasy VIII, and I have I bought the remaster for the Switch whenever that came out. I mean, I got the physical version that included both the remaster of 8 and Final Fantasy VII. As an import years ago, and I had started 8, and I got partway into disc 2. I think the last time I probably played it before this was back when I did my second Extra Life stream, because I remember playing it during that stream. But anyway, so I hadn't played it quite a while, but I booted it up, and I've been playing a lot of it. So footage here is just from a couple of random fights in disc 2, one of which just in the training center, and then the other one a boss fight that's midway through disc 2. And since I recorded it directly from the Switch, it's just a couple of 30-second clips spliced together. But yeah, I've been having a good time with it. I mean, Final Fantasy VIII, the remaster, because the fact that they lost the source code to the original game. I think that they basically just reverse engineered the game from maybe the old PC version or something, or maybe the PS1 version, and then they added some better character models on top of all the main characters, playable and otherwise. And then there's still spots where you'll just have characters that are clearly just part of the pre-rendered backgrounds, and they look noticeably blurry and everything. And it's always it's interesting in those situations, when you actually have to talk to the person. It's oh. But yeah, and I guess they redid some of the monster models, I think, maybe too, maybe not actually. Those might actually still be the same as they were on PS1. But anyway, I've played the original Final Fantasy VIII a bunch of times. Even more if you count the times that I made it to near the end of disc 3, and then my save data got corrupted. Which happened twice for sure. Maybe 3 times. But anyway, so I am about 2/3 the way through disc 3. So I don't have a ton left to do. It's basically... I'm going to be going up to space pretty soon. To the space station. And getting the Ragnarok and... I mean, none of this is really spoilers. It's just... I'm not giving any story spoilers. Just some stuff that you do later in the game. And... then I have I think after that it's just Lunatic Pandora and side quests, and then going into the final area of the game, which disc 4 is literally just the final area of the game, apart from last few side things that you can do. So I anticipate I could be done with this by the time we record next, theoretically. I've played this game enough times that I know my way around pretty well, and Really, there's only a couple of spots where it gets really challenging, particularly fighting Omega Weapon. But that's disc 4 that I'll be doing that. So yeah, I can't think of much else to say about that. Performance is basically exactly the same as it was on PS1. There's like, it's not a good frame rate, but it doesn't bother me because I played this game so many times that I'm just used to it. The only time I like really notice it the most is when it comes to the combat, because the combat is like 15 frames per second. And even then, most of the time I don't notice it because like I said, I played this game so many times. It's really just like when I'm pulling the trigger on Squall's Gunblade that I've noticed it more. It's like, wow, that is quite an input delay. I mean, I've been able to get it for the most part to where it hasn't been too much of a problem, but yeah, it's interesting. One thing that is kind of nice about the remaster, apart from some of the updated character models and everything, is the fact that you can, if you press in on the left stick, you can boost everything up to 3 times speed, which is helpful like when you're having to trek around, especially if you're having to go back and forth between an area, like if you're grinding or whatever, which I don't do a lot of grinding, but it's more like if I'm trying to obtain certain items, or there's one side quest where you have to kill 20 Tonberries in order to get the Tonberry King to show up. At least I think it was 20, if I remember correctly. And stuff like that, or like if I'm trying to get a rare card from someone, and because of the fact that that particular area happened to have the random rule applied for Triple Triad, I was stuck like getting terrible hands, and then I'd lose a really good card, and so I'd restart the game, go back to my save, have to run back to the person from outside, and then retry the thing and rinse and repeat until I finally got the cards I was going for. But yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy VIII is a classic in my opinion. There's lots of reasons why I understand why people hate it, and lots of things about it that are very different, but it was the first Final Fantasy game I played, and it still holds a very special place in my heart. So yeah, trying to think. Oh yes, there is one other game I played. This one was just a little tiny bit, but in light of the fact that the Switch 2 Pro controller got support in Steam through the beta, I tested it out with Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, and I mostly did it with that game because of the fact that I have the muscle memory tied to the Switch Pro controller, or well, just the Switch controls in general, from playing Shin Megami Tensei 5, the original version, on the Switch. And so it's like I'm used to pressing B to jump and pressing A for confirmations and stuff. And so whenever I've been playing this on my desktop, I've always been using the Switch Pro controller. But since the Switch 2 Pro controller works, I have been testing that out. And I really only played like maybe 15 minutes. I basically just wanted to see how well it worked. It seems to work better than the Switch Pro controller does, because that one has some random drifting that even though I don't actually have the drifting when I play it on the Switch, which is weird. So it's kind of odd, but the Switch 2 Pro controller I haven't had any issues with. And we'll talk more about that, about the institution of that on Steam when we get to that topic a bit later. But although actually, I guess realistically, I can just kind of mention my thoughts on that, and then when you have your responses, you can say anything that you have to say about that if you have anything further, and then we can just talk about the other topics, because we have a bunch of stuff actually to talk about this week after all. So I'll just say it, like I said, it works really well. Thankfully, when I checked to customize the buttons on the controller, and it actually shows all the buttons, including the back buttons. So it has GL and GR And it also lets you customize the C button, so that instead of having to pay to use the C button like you do with the Switch 2, you don't have to on Steam. You can just use it. I don't know what I would actually use it for, because it's not really in a spot that's convenient for any sort of gameplay thing, but I will come up with some reason, some way to use it, just because I can, you know? But yeah, of course, I love Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. I just haven't played super far into it. I don't remember exactly what percentage of the way through I am. It's one of those that I'll get back to at some point, especially because it plays really well on Steam Deck and has 60 frames per second and all that. On top of already having, and then, oh yeah, I guess I should say this is the first time I've actually played the game since I upgraded my graphics card. Not that it really made much of a difference, because I had already played it since I upgraded my monitor, and it's, locked 240 frames per second. So zero issues, beautiful looking game, visually stunning, amazing music, all that good stuff. So that's all I have to say on that. And that's all the games.
Okay. So save the Switch 2 controller stuff for later.
You can just talk about it now, since we're already on the topic, and then anything else you want to bring up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so definitely glad to hear that it's been working well for you, and you definitely had some good experience. I will admit that I don't even remember how long it took for the Switch 1 Pro controller to have official support on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not official support, but to actually have support on Steam. Mm-hmm. But this honestly seems a bit faster than I expected.
Yeah.
I thought it would take a bit longer, but I mean, that's great, and I know that that's something that, funny enough, you had mentioned just several weeks before, saying if there's no support for the controller, I might just sell my Switch 2 Pro controller. But now it's well, I guess I'm keeping it then.
Yeah.
So, no, definitely glad that you got to use that, and that you can also use it to the full extent and capability that you have there. And it works well enough for you via Bluetooth, or do you have to use it wired?
I couldn't figure out how to get connected with Bluetooth. I just did it wired, but I mean, that's not really a problem, because I'm always sitting right at my desk anyway, and it's super easy for me to plug it in. So that's perfectly fine by me. So something I do want to mention, I've sort of been contemplating holding on to my Switch 2 a tiny bit longer. Really, one thing that has come up is, and I this isn't a news topic, so I'll just kind of bring it up, is that, Metroid Prime 4, the reviews have gone up, and I've been going back and forth a lot on the game, and I'm starting to lean more towards actually grabbing it, because it seems like, despite the issues with the talkative NPCs and some of the hand-holding, it doesn't overtake all the great stuff about the game. And then also I thought about the fact that, there's plenty of games where there's some pretty terrible elements to them that I still really like. I can think of, for example, Dark Souls 2. It's gotten a whole lot of flack. There's a lot of reasons why people don't like it, and a lot of very valid criticisms, and I still enjoyed the game. And so it's kind of made me think about it, but basically the reason why I'm contemplating holding on to the Switch 2 just a tiny bit longer is, if I do decide to get Metroid Prime 4, the consideration of playing it docked with the Switch 2 and then playing it handheld on the Switch 1. Because from what I've seen, basically the Switch 1 performance, or the Switch 2 performance in handheld mode, is not great, or rather, the performance is good, but the screen is bad, and so the HDR implementation is bad, and there's ghosting and stuff like that. So, but honestly, part of it is just me trying to decide, okay, do I care enough about being able to play games docked at 120 frames per second, or even just 60 at 1440p, where it will look good. Or, and do I, want to use the mouse controls, or is it something where it's really not that important and I should just go ahead and get rid of the Switch 2? And I'm kind of like, I mean, I'm still planning to get rid of it. The main thing is just trying to decide whether I wait until, get Metroid Prime 4, play through that, and then get rid of it, or because it'll still, be playable on the Switch, or do I just play it on the Switch, period, and get rid of the Switch 2? And I'm very back and forth on that because I've only just kind of been thinking today I might still get the game. I don't know. I mean, I'll definitely get the physical version regardless. But it's more just a question of whether I get the physical version and the upgrade to the Switch 2, or do I just get the physical Switch 1 version and not worry about the upgrade? And yeah. So part of it is just, I still have the Switch 2. I haven't listed it yet. I just haven't gotten around to it. It was just a bit too busy, and then I didn't quite get around to it. And then, of course, they ended up doing a sale on the Switch 2 over the weekend. And so even more so, it's like, well, I better wait until that sale's done before I try to sell it so that I can actually get more money for it. But, yeah, so I'm still planning to get rid of the Switch 2. It's just a matter of whether I do it right away or wait like a week or two. I do think I probably should try to finish up Final Fantasy VIII Remastered before I play Metroid Prime 4. But we'll kind of play it by ear and see what happens there. One thing I do... Actually, no, never mind. I was going to mention about the fact that with the Switch 2 Pro controller support on Steam, that I could only do it wired, but we already talked about that. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else on that front, but do you have any thoughts on any of the other stuff? Other games?
Yeah, actually a couple things for Final Fantasy VIII. So a couple things. I guess the first thing is if you could explain it best to me, just because I've heard several different things and I haven't played 8 before, so I want to know what this exactly is like. I've heard that you level your stats up based upon the skills you use. Is that correct, or is that like something else that I've heard?
No, that sounds more like Final Fantasy 2 from what I've heard about it. The actual Final Fantasy 2. But no, the way this works is you have you strengthen your stats by equipping magic to the stats. So you get magic. There's a couple different ways to get it. One is by drawing spells from enemies. So different enemies will have different spells that they carry, and then you draw those spells. So they're like a certain number of spells you can carry. So you can carry up to 100 of any spell with any character. And then you use those to equip to your stats. So it's possible to actually get your character pretty broken early on in the game. If you get the right kind of magic, there's the GFs, which is, the equivalent of Espers, Eidolons, whatever. You junction them. So you equip them to your character, and then the abilities that they have enable you to equip magic to your different stats, depending on what stat junctions they have available. And they also have abilities where you can refine magic from items that you get or from cards that you get, things like that. And early on in the game, if you get the life magic refine ability with one of the GFs, then when you can refine Turagas out of tents, and doing that, when you equip that, your HP will jump up dramatically. Or if you equip it to your attack, it will make your attack dramatically stronger, so on and so forth. So you can basically just kind of customize how you want your character to be built in terms of their different strengths and weaknesses, based on what stats they have available to work with the GFs that are equipped, but then also just, you know, kind of build up what type of character you want to have. Like I'll typically go heavier on the attack, but you can also equip magic to your attack, your elemental attack, which makes it so that you can have like the thunder element, for example, to your attack, or fire or ice or whatever. There's also a status attack ability where you can equip certain, you can equip magic to your status attack so that it inflicts that status effect on an enemy, like blind or sleep or whatever. And you can also equip magic to your status defense that would make it so you have protection against those things. Or when it comes to like the elemental defense, you can equip the element of your choice to your defense in order to absorb that kind of magic. And so it's like it's a really kind of an interesting system. And honestly, the only thing that I really don't like about it is that, for one, it discourages you more from using magic for attacking, but also the fact that a lot of times you'll spend time just standing there drawing magic for a while from an enemy because they have unlimited spells that they carry, and you just draw it until you've gotten all the spells you can carry for, you know, those characters. And I mean, you can, like I said, you can also refine magic from items and that sort of thing, which helps. And there's like draw points around where you can draw magic, but it's very limited in how much you can draw at a time. So there's lots of things that I think are completely valid criticisms of this game. But personally, I'm a big fan of it, and yeah, I just love this game. So
Okay. And the next question I had, which is sort of a combination. So you mentioned about being able to fast forward through battles and stuff, which I think is definitely very useful for grinding. But I was curious though, just to wonder if this was implemented in this game as well. Is there an auto battle feature?
No.
Setup?
Okay.
So
the speeding up is less about, I mean, I guess you could use it to make battles faster. I really just use it for movement around the map, especially because of the fact that this game does have a lower frame rate. I mean, I think it's like probably 30 FPS maybe in the overworld, and when you're walking around in general, and then it's 15 in battles. I believe so. I could be wrong on that, but I think the only way to change that is using like losses scaling, because Square never put anything in to fix that issue, especially since they kind of had to rebuild it after they lost the source code.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious if that. I was like, if that was the case, that would make grinding a whole lot easier, because I sort of did that with Final Fantasy IV DS, where if I was trying to grind up, I would just set auto battle and just run around and just do that. And I was like, if combine that with speeding up the movement, I'm like, yeah, that would make grinding a whole lot easier. But all right.
Well, another thing is that enemies level up as you do in this game, so you really don't even have to grind from that standpoint. Really, the main purpose of a lot of the grinding would be like to, for one, getting AP to level up, to have your GFs learn their abilities, or for like if you're just grinding for certain items, that kind of thing. It could be useful for that, but for leveling, it's not really necessary at all.
That's good to know. Yeah, I think that's everything I have then.
Oh yeah, one other thing I should mention is that limit breaks in this game, there's only two ways to have them active. One is to be at low health. I think it's like below 50% or something like that, or to use a magic called Aura, which basically puts you in the same state as though you were, to where you can do limit breaks. So that's another thing people didn't really like, and I could definitely understand that. Of course, if you know how to abuse the system pretty well, it's not that bad. But yeah. All right.
So wait, does aura like reduce your health to half way, or does it just like simulate the conditions needed? Like, you don't
No,
actually have to lose.
it just makes you able to use your limit break without having to be low health.
Okay. Okay, that's
But
cool.
the nice thing is that as long as it's active, you can just keep using your limit break over and over. I mean, it doesn't last super long. Like the effect, usually at best, you're going to be able to use it once or twice. I guess I should say maybe 2 to 3 times at the most on average for how long it lasts. And Aura's not like an easy spell to get. It's not common. I mean, like later in the game, you can get you can mug a certain type of item from a certain enemy, and then those can be modified into those can be modified into aura stones, which then you can modify those into the aura magic. And that's really the easiest way to get that kind of magic. But yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff about this game and plenty of stuff to criticize, but I still enjoy it. And the story to me is like, it's not the best by any stretch, but I still really like it. So, but yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the news. So, of course, we already talked about everything with the Switch 2 Pro Controller support with the Steam Beta. Just note that if you want to test it out on Steam, all you have to do is just go into the beta program, which I can't remember exactly how to get there, but let's see here. I know. Let me just find it real quick here. If you go to your Steam profile and settings, then you can go to where is it? Might actually be okay. I don't remember how to get there, but anyway, just look up how to get into Steam betas. It's super simple. You don't have to do anything special. It's just simply basically they just give you updates for stuff they're testing out, and gives you an opportunity to test out features early. So, but yeah, you can test out the Switch 2 Pro Controller stuff that way, and I definitely would recommend that if you have a Switch 2 Pro Controller, test it out. If you don't, you're probably better off just waiting. And then you can get the far superior Steam controller that's coming up. So either way, I'm holding on to mine. I'm definitely going to be using it going forward. Well, on a game-by-game basis. If nothing else, it'll get used in multiplayer. And probably, it'll definitely get used in like Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. There may be a game or two here or there that I'm just like, oh yeah, I want to use it here. Or maybe if I emulate some Nintendo game or something that I like using that layout, I might use it for that. But yeah. But getting into other news topics, since we've already discussed that. Death Stranding 2 has been rated through the ESRB for PC, specifically for Windows. Meaning that it's probably going to be announced at the Game Awards, especially with Jeff Keighley and Kojima's buddy stuff going on. So, what are your thoughts?
Oh boy. Well, that didn't take so long to come over. Now, granted, I believe this might be roughly around the same length of time as Death Stranding 1, but I could be wrong. But either way, we knew it was coming. Anyone who would have been in denial, sees that the writing was just on the wall, guys. But yeah, definitely great to see this coming. That I mean, the fact that it has an ESRB rating is pretty much just a confirmation at this point. We just need to have an actual announcement and reveal. But I'm guessing maybe we could see the game as far as like when it launches, maybe like May, June of next year. Like I'm expecting a mid, maybe earlier, but I would say a mid 2026 release, just because I think Kojima's been working on this after the PS5 launch, and so they're like, yeah, we've got that done now, so let's go ahead and work on the PC version. If they weren't like already trying to work on it like slightly before the PS5 launch, just to get ahead of things. But yeah, I'm not surprised. This is definitely great. I still have to get back to playing the first game though. But actually, now that Expedition 33 is over, I could go back and play it now, since that has my undivided attention now. So yeah, I mean, I mean, not really too much more to say. It's good that's coming. I'd be interested in knowing though when it's possibly gonna come over to Xbox and possibly Switch too, because I mean,
Yeah.
the first game came over to those platforms, so
Well, it's not on Switch yet.
oh, that's right, it's not on the Switch yet. Oh yeah,
Otherwise, I would already have it.
that's true. That's true. Well then, well, as far as this Xbox, then I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I will say, though, is that I think... Yeah, so, this is... The publisher for this one is Sony Interactive, whereas with Death Stranding 1, it's 505 Games.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that could possibly, extend the time out that it would come to, Xbox, unless, Kojima does or had something planned where he would have the rights for distributing the game again, sort of like what he did with Death Stranding 1.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, then it might be another year or two before we see that come to Xbox. But I have a feeling that the game could still possibly come down the road. Not as soon as PC, but there's still potential, I'd say. But yeah, that's everything I have.
Yeah, well, of course, obviously not surprised at all by this. It looks like the release, it was about an 8 to 9 month difference between the time that it was announced for PC and it actually released for the first Death Stranding. So whether or not it'll be that long, honestly, I actually wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot shorter of a window. Largely because of the fact that, I mean, it's been like right now it's been 6 months, well, almost 6 months since the PS5 version came out of Death Stranding 2. So I would say I think it's guaranteed it's going to be announced at the Game Awards. At least, I guess maybe not guaranteed. I'm going to say it's highly likely. I think it will be announced. It's very possible I'm wrong on that front. But I do think that it could actually be announced at the Game Awards, and it seems like it would be the perfect place to do it because, I mean, for starters, it just got rated by the ESRB, so we know it's coming. And then the Game Awards, well, Kojima is buddy-buddy with Jeff Keighley. There's absolutely no reason why he wouldn't announce it there. And he's also announced other projects there previously. So, in fact, I think Death Stranding 2, the first announcement, might have actually been at the Game Awards. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not positive on that front. I might be wrong on that. But I know that, like, they announced OD at the Game Awards, and I feel like there was something else they announced, but maybe it was just OD.
The other game?
Because the Fizz Int game they announced at a PlayStation State of Play or Showcase, one of those two, since it's going to be initially a PlayStation exclusive. But either way, I think there's a very good chance that this will be announced at the Game Awards. I think it would be really funny if they announced the Xbox version at the same time, just because of how dead Xbox is. But I mean, like I don't have any doubts it's going to come to Xbox. I mean, it's obvious, they just put the original Death Stranding on Xbox not long ago. So Death Stranding 2 is a given that it will be there. I think it would be cool on top of this to see Death Stranding also come over to Switch 2. I think that Switch 2 is much more likely than Switch 1, just based on how demanding the game can be. And the Switch 2 is I think supposed to be roughly equivalent to like a PS4 Pro, give or take. And, you know, should easily be able to run it even if it's only 30 frames per second. So, but yeah, with Death Stranding 2, of course, obviously, I'm very excited that it's coming over. I hope there's a good gap between announcement and release, because I still need to go back and finish the remaining achievements in Death Stranding 1, because I want to completely finish it before I jump into 2, because I mean, like, I don't have to, because I've already finished the story in Death Stranding 1, but I very much would like to. And I'm sure that it's, unless it's like, it's shadow dropping tonight on Steam during the Game Awards, oh gosh. then I would easily have, you know, time to finish up Death Stranding 1 before 2 drops. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else on that front. I do think I have a suspicion that it could be a short window between announcement and release. That's my thought. Whether or not that's accurate, I have no idea, but I think that is very possible. So that's what I think anyway. I'm just hoping it's not Shadow Drop, because then we're like, dang it, Kojima, now I have to buy it. I mean, I don't actually have to, but I'll want to buy it right then and there. Though, I suppose as long as it has a sale on Green Man Gaming, that wouldn't be too bad, because it'd probably be 20% off at launch. Or, you know, somewhere around there anyway. So. Cool,
hey,
cool,
everyone,
cool,
here's
cool.
the game. But also, we're dropping it right now.
Right. I mean, I could see potentially, like, unless they shadow drop that right then and there, I could see them being like, it's coming to PC, and then it's also coming, and then later it'll be coming to Switch 2 and Xbox, and then, but tonight we're gonna shadow drop Death Stranding on the Switch too. I could see that happening, and honestly, that would almost make me want to keep my Switch 2 just to play it on there. But of course, I guess also it would really depend a lot on like how it performs, because if it's 30 frames per second on the Switch 2, it's like, I mean, that's fine. And if they had the full game on a cartridge, I would definitely want to buy it. But without that, like, I mean, that's, I guess, technically better than the Steam Deck, because the Steam Deck has frame drops at certain spots, particularly when you have a lot of the BTs on the screen. A lot of stuff going on with that, but yeah, anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'm not expecting all that. Just going back to the main topic, I'm glad that Death Stranding 2 is coming to PC. I was always planning to get it regardless of when it came, and we'll see what the actual release window is. It's very possible they won't even announce a release date, and it'll be just like it was with the first Death Stranding, where it was announced and then the actual release date wasn't announced until months later. So, good stuff. All right. Well, you want to talk about these teaser images from the Game Awards while we're on the subject?
Certainly. So, So there was a picture that was sent out by Jeff Keighley, and he's been posting images for a while now, leading up to the Game Awards show, and he's done this before, but this one in particular has had people speculate, and they've had several different ideas and theories, but both of them were shut down. Now, one of the first ones that happened, actually also I should mention here that when Jeff posted the tweet, he said he also said that this was a regal, inspiring, and thickness, and people were wondering what those words meant, and so they looked up the words using what three words a map tracking system, and what it led to was location of a road near the Mojave Desert in California, and it turns out that the statue does indeed exist in real life, and people were wondering what that meant, and there were a lot of theories about stuff, and like two of the biggest ones were Doom 4, especially if like an expansion pass, and then also there was another one that was related to God of War. Now later on though, there were those theories were disregarded by people in the industry. For example, Corey Barlog, he came and said that the statue is not affiliated or related to God of War, and while Jez Corden stated that it could be related to Diablo 4, Jason Schreier, he later on said in sort of response, "No idea where Jez is getting that, but this statue is not teasing the Diablo 4 expansion. I don't currently plan on reporting what it is, sorry, but it's a good one." So people still do not know what it is. However, there is now a third theory. Third? And so this third theory, coincidentally, happens to be for possibly Half-Life 3, because the closest road to this location is called the Yucca Mesa Road, which could possibly relate to Black Mesa, which is part of the Half-Life universe. So people could be theorizing that's what it could be. Now, I also I didn't describe what the statue was, so it's sort of like an amalgamation of skeletons, corpses, types of things. Like if you've seen, I guess best way to describe this is if you've seen Shin Godzilla, and if you've seen and if you remember the final shot of the movie, that's essentially what the statue looks like. That's the best way I can describe it, the way it looks. So by looking at it, it really does not look like something you would expect from Half-Life 3, but just because of the naming convention and stuff, like the area, that's what people have thought. And I mean, a couple things that people have also thought it could be related to would be Doom, which I think is definitely a good theory based upon just how it looks, Baldur's Gate, and also Fallout New Vegas, although I don't know how they got that from Fallout, how they got that from the statue, but I haven't played too much of New Vegas, so I can't comment on that. But yeah, that is essentially the gist of everything. But before I get into my thoughts, what are yours on this mysterious statue?
Well, the first of all, the biggest things that the biggest questions I have are, for starters, was the statue already there and they're just using the pictures because they're teasing something? Does the statue actually have to do with the game? Like, is it hinting at what the actual game is, or is it just they're using that location like if it was Half-Life 3, which personally I don't think that's what it probably is, but it also would depend on whether the statue already existed previously. Because if the statue existed previously and it's just because it's near Yucca Mesa Road and referencing Black Mesa, maybe, but it also doesn't really line up from the standpoint of, I mean, yeah, you have Mesa in there, but the fact that Black Mesa is supposed to be set in New Mexico, and you got just various things that to me say probably not Half-Life 3, even though I think there's still a chance we could see that. But like I said, one of the biggest questions is, did this statue exist beforehand and it's just being referenced now, or is this something that they placed there because of the fact that they're in order to do this teaser. Now, if it's something that didn't previously exist, which I don't think it did, and it was just placed there, I think that the idea of it potentially teasing like a Doom expansion would make sense. Even though it seems kind of odd to have a marketing stunt for that, but the imagery of like the creatures and everything reminds me most of Doom. Even though at the same time it also, like there's some stuff where it reminds me of Doom. Then there's some stuff about it that kind of makes me think of Elder Scrolls. Like could be Elder Scrolls 6. And like I was reading some of the comments on that tweet that they quoted from Mad Gamer Inc. And, one of the theories was, let me look at that one more time here. One of them was Elder Scrolls 6, and another person, there's some people that said Dark Souls 4, which, while that would be huge, to me that seems unlikely. Especially just based on some of the creatures that are displayed there that are not typically like Dark Souls type creatures. Hexen is another one that people suggested. Darksiders 4. But some of those, it just seems like those games aren't big enough to really warrant something this flashy being created. Like it has to be something really big. And the fact that Jason Schreier is saying, I know what this is, but I'm not going to say it because it's something really, really big. To me, that says probably not Darksiders 4 or Hexen, because while those have their following, especially Darksiders, I don't think it's big enough to where they would do something this fancy schmancy for it, Yeah, so like my personal theory, based on at least the ideas that people have come up with, I think that Dark Souls 4, I should say, I think Doom is the most likely, even though at the same time, even though it still doesn't entirely make sense to me with it being, it just seems like a bit too much of a marketing ploy for something like Doom. But based on some of the monsters that are displayed in there, I think Elder Scrolls is actually a real possibility. Now, I would hope that if they're actually doing something for Elder Scrolls, that it's getting close to being done and not going to be like, well, we're going to show you another entirely pre-rendered trailer, that has what little bit we've gotten done in the past. I think it's been like 7 years since they first teased the Elder Scrolls 6 that it was being worked on. Yeah, of course, obviously I would love it to be Dark Souls 4. That would have me so hyped. Honestly, I think that would probably be more exciting for me than Half-Life 3. It would be close between those two. Even though I don't think this is Half-Life 3. I don't think this is at all, unless it already existed, which I don't think it did. Then this is probably not Half-Life 3. But Dark Souls 4 would be a very cool reveal. Honestly, I just have no idea though. Like, this is such a crazy statue, and the imagery looking like a big door with like a weird thing that kind of looks like an Eye of Sauron with spikes sticking out of it, or yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's already been shut down. God of War was already shut down, and Diablo 4 expansion was shut down. So we at least know it's not going to be those. And beyond that, someone theorized Black Ops 8.
Oh, sadly, that is something that could be credible just because of what happens with 7.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not that, but unfortunately, that is something you could only add like a small grain of salt as far as like how much you would want to think it could be, just because of what they did with 7. But I'm like, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just too much there. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what it is. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's definitely crazy here. I'm like, I honestly, I think I agree with you that this could very likely be Doom related, just because of the imagery, and I also think that this is something that was set up. I don't think this is something that I don't think this is anything that was already existing. Doom definitely would be my top choice. Could it be Elder Scrolls 6? Maybe, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I just really feel like Doom is the most likely thing. As good as it sounds that it could be Dark Souls 4, I just don't see there being a Dark Souls 4 just because of the way 3 ended, especially with the Ring City DLC. I mean, if they wanted to do something as far as, I mean, yeah, I really can't imagine anything else that could be in that regard. Yeah, I mean, as cool as it could be if it were Hexen, like you said, and also like Darksiders, the following for those games aren't large enough to warrant any type of, or at least anything like this. I
Right.
put it like that, as far as like a publicity stunt. I mean, it would be kind of cool and interesting if that were the case, but it's just unlikely in my opinion. Now, obviously, of course, this we'll know all the details next week, since Game
2
Award
weeks.
show is on
2 weeks. Yeah, it's the 11th.
The 11th. Oh wait, no, the 11th is next week.
Is it?
Next Thursday.
Oh, you're right. You're right. It is. Okay. Great.
So we'll
Sooner than I
it'll
was
be
thinking.
right here before we know. So
Sweet.
we'll know, but yeah, I just really can't pinpoint what this could be, because I'm just like, on one hand, going through some of these images here, like on one hand I'm like, yeah, this looks more like one thing, but then on the other side you have what looks to be like a dinosaur head part of like emerging from one side. I'm like, okay, I have no idea what that could be. And then on one face you have what could be either one of the common undead enemies you see in a Souls game, or it could be like one of the weaker demons you would see in Doom. So I'm like, that's like an either or case there. Like you said, you have that weird gate-like thing, which I'm like, yeah, that almost kind of reminds me to a degree of the not necessarily the same degree, but also like an Oblivion portal. So I'm like,
right.
I don't know, but definitely interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, the more I look at this, I'm gonna say Elder Scrolls 6. That's my theory. I think that I mean, it's like, yeah, there's various things that could be like, okay, yeah, that looks like that could be Doom, but the monsters, I mean, like there are a few that look like some of the weaker monsters from Doom, but more of the stuff in here reminds me of just Elder Scrolls, like some of the creatures, and you know, they have armor, and like there's one with a helmet, and a lot of the undead type creatures remind me more of like the Draugr that are in Skyrim. And just, yeah, I mean, like, I have no idea what to expect. I would say Dark Souls is probably not the case. And, you know, there's any number of possibilities of what it actually is, but I'm leaning more towards it being Elder Scrolls 6. And being somehow, like, having something similar to Oblivion Gates, because it did remind me of that a bit too, but obviously it's not exactly Oblivion Gates, and it's just kind of hard to tell. Also kind of made me think of the gates or whatever they were called in Full Metal Alchemist, but I know that's obviously wouldn't be that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this is. So I guess we'll find out next week what it actually is, and we'll talk about it after the fact for sure. All right. Any other thoughts on that?
No, sir.
All right. So we got some information that apparently Destiny 3 is in development. So this is, let me just bring up this article from Insider Gaming. According to a credible leaker on Twitter, Destiny 3 is currently in development at Bungie. They haven't said much, but that it's very early in the development process. And Destiny 2, of course, has been out now for 8 years. And so it's definitely a possibility for sure. I have quite a bit of thoughts on this, just looking at it from the perspective of someone who played a lot of Destiny 2 and Destiny 1 for that matter. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this was definitely interesting to see, especially in light of Bungie focusing, or at least having been focused so heavily on Marathon. So I'm very curious about this. Now, I mean, of course, this is just a rumor, but apparently this guy from Twitter has leaked Bungie-related information in the past regarding both Destiny and Marathon. So, I think there is there's a possibility that this is actually true. But it does raise questions, though, because if Bungie is working on Destiny 3 right now, then how much of the team is working on it? Are they splitting the load between Marathon and Destiny? Is like the entire team working on both projects? In light of everything that's happened with Marathon, is that possibly the reason why they're working on Destiny 3 or starting to work on Destiny 3 right now? Is this something that Sony wanted Bungie to do because of everything that's happened with Marathon, and they're just like possibly going to pull the plug on Marathon and just say, okay, go ahead, and you had your chance with Marathon, now just make Destiny 3, since that should be a whole lot better, and it's something more that people would want to play instead of what Marathon is currently. So like that's something that I'm very curious to know about, and also what changes could we see with Destiny 3 compared with 2, because I haven't played 1 or 2, so I can't say anything as far as I don't know what the difference is between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, and of course Destiny 2 has had a lot of changes over the years with the mechanics and stuff and everything that was added, so I don't know what changes or how things will be different from the end, or at least the most recent expansion for Destiny 2 and Destiny 3, and since this is, stated to be early development, this will probably be something we don't see for at least 2 to 3 years, I would say, maybe at the earliest. So I'd be curious to know about like how the game would change between now and then. But still, I would just say, what impact would this have on Marathon? Because I mean, Marathon's been going through the ringer, and what was the last thing? Was like development halted temporarily, or is it just like still going on, but just like things are slowing down, or are they starting over again? I don't remember what the last thing with Marathon was, but it of course wasn't too great. But I'm just curious about that though. because I mean, I guess one of the biggest things I'm just wondering is if they're still working on two different things, are they being stretched too thin with the people that they have available right now, especially if they have to redo a lot of stuff on Marathon as it is, or are they just trying to draft early ideas for Destiny 3 before they start actually laying down the groundwork for that? But yeah, those are my preemptive thoughts, more so just questions about what this game is and how this is impacting development and how this is going on, and is this like Sony's idea or is it Bungie's idea, and what's going to happen with Marathon. But yeah, that's essentially everything I have, and maybe you could have some answers or theories about for those questions based upon your knowledge and expertise in this area.
I wouldn't necessarily say expertise, but experience, I guess, is a probably better word. So for those who are not longtime listeners, I played Destiny 1 pretty heavily. I mean, not like as heavy as most people, but it was, for me, it was at the time my most played game. I played around 700 hours. Destiny 2, I have over 2,000 hours, having started playing in 2017, and that's excluding the little tiny bit I played on PS4 before I switched over to PC. So the majority of my hours are in the PC version of Destiny 2. And I go back and forth on how much I actually play. In the past year and a half, I have played very little. Basically, the Final Shape came out, and I got through the first 2 missions, I think. Yeah, I got partway into the 3rd mission for the campaign for Final Shape, and that's the extent of it. There's a whole lot of content I haven't done in the game. And because of the fact that I'm so far behind in all the content that they've put out, and I haven't been able to keep up with it. I just haven't been real motivated to jump back in, because I enjoyed the game a lot. At least I have in the past, but because of the fact that they were just constantly putting out more content, more dungeons, more raids and that sort of thing, I just couldn't keep up with it, especially because I wanted to play other regular single player games. So I would go in phases where I would play where it'd basically be the only thing I was playing for a while, for months sometimes. And then I would take long breaks, and then I'd come back for a little bit and then take a long break. And it was just kind of all over the place with it. So the idea of them bringing a Destiny 3, I would like only from the standpoint that it would mean theoretically they would stop putting out content for Destiny 2, which could give me the motivation I need to go back to it and try to do some of the content I haven't completed. However, because of the fact that they also have a tendency to delete old content after a certain amount of time, I would probably also miss out on doing a lot of the stuff, and then I just kind of feel more and more like, what's the point? I mean, I put a bunch of time into it. I bought every expansion. I was doing the season pass every year up through Final Shape, and then I have not bought any of it since last year. And basically, after I bought the Final Shape full season pass campaign, the expansion with the season pass, after that I did not buy anything else for Destiny, and I've only played a few times since then. Honestly, the game just got overwhelming. So with all that being said, like I said, one thing that I would like about the idea of Destiny 3 is just that maybe then I could have the ability to go and try to get a bunch of the stuff done that I just have missed out on. But at the same time, I don't know that I necessarily want to ever go back to it. I mean, it's still in my library. I at the very least want to finish the Final Shape campaign. And like Bungie has said that they're basically kind of doing now a new sort of saga, since the Light and Darkness saga is completed from, Destiny 1 through the final shape of Destiny 2. But I'm just not super interested. Now, the idea of a Destiny 3, I'm mixed on whether or not I would actually be interested in playing it. Because on the one hand, assuming they start from scratch, which I think that this would be one situation where it would make more sense for them to do it than they did with Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, where it was just 3 years and then they completely restarted. Whereas this time it's like, okay, 8 years so far of Destiny 2. I'm sure that there are some people where they'd be willing to start over, at least some of us, for the purpose of just not feeling like I have a bunch of stuff to catch up on. But at the same time, I also think I probably wouldn't play it at all. I'd probably just say, no, I think I'm done with it, because I don't want to get back into that cycle. Like, I mean, the last time I really truly was like playing it all the time, and like it was eating up a bunch of hours of my day, in my free time, was in the first year of my oldest son, with Destiny 1. Because then, he was still a baby. There wasn't, it was basically just like I had a lot more free time on my hands, and my job was not super demanding. And when I got off work, it was like, okay, I'd play games, I'd play online with people, so on and so forth. But now there's just way too much content, and I don't know that I really want to get back into something like that with 3 kids. And yeah, my kids are a lot more independent now. They're playing games themselves and all that, but I also, like spending time with my wife. And I mean, not that I didn't in the past, but then it was like, okay, we have a lot more free time because we don't have a lot of kids and don't have as many responsibilities outside of me working. So yeah, there's just a whole lot of things about this. I will say the idea of this coming out and being in an early state tells me that probably the soonest we would see anything about it would maybe be like a teaser in 2028. And then in, 2030, they finally release Destiny 3, which would be pretty crazy. It'll be 13 years. Yeah, 13 years. But I do think it seems pretty likely that this is a thing where basically PlayStation is saying, you guys need to do something. You need to start working on Destiny 3 because Destiny 2 has gotten long in the tooth. Player numbers are much lower than they used to be. And restarting is probably the only way you're going to get back some of that audience. And so it wouldn't surprise me if that is the case. Either way, it's obviously a long way off, assuming it's legit, that it's actually happening. And I don't know. It's such a weird thing with Destiny because like I have such a love-hate relationship with the game after so many years. And the hate really is more than anything just the fact that I just never have enough time to play it. Because it really, after a while, just kind of felt like you pretty much have to do this full time if you want to keep up. And it wasn't necessarily about keeping up with like power or anything like that. Like I wasn't, I was never wanting to be on the same level as like the streamers that did it full time. But more than anything, I just wanted to actually be able to like accomplish certain things that I want to do, like getting the exotics and completing the dungeons and completing the raids. And after a while, I just got to a point where it's like, I don't have the time for this. I just don't, especially if I want to actually play other games. And I do want to play other games, especially because games are cheap on PC. And so I always end up with way too many games. And that doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. So yeah. I guess I really have a lot of mixed feelings about this. And I wish that there could just be like a finite amount of content to complete and that it wouldn't just constantly be getting refreshed, because I can never catch up. And so I don't even bother trying. And if Destiny 3 is going to do the same thing, then I'm probably just not even going to bother. But obviously, it's still a long ways out, so we'll see. That's it. That's what I got for thoughts.
I guess one question I just popped in my mind. Considering that, Destiny 3 would likely be way out, would you anticipate at least one more expansion for Destiny 2, or do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're still doing expansions. I mean, they're not on the same size. Like, actually, they just came out with one today. I don't Destiny 2 Renegades. I don't know anything about it. I haven't looked at it at all. I haven't kept up with any of their content after Final Shape. I was just like, I'm not gonna bother.
Okay.
But I don't think they're doing traditional expansions like they were doing before. But they're doing, I can't remember what it was that they said they were doing back before I stopped paying attention, and so I honestly don't know what it is right now either.
Okay. That's all I have then.
All right. Well, let's see here. I guess just one last little topic here. There was an update put out for Red Dead Redemption for both PlayStation 5 and the Switch 2, and then they also officially released it for the Xbox Series consoles, which previously you could play it through backwards compatibility, but there wasn't actually an Xbox One version of the game. And so now there's current gen versions for the consoles, including Switch 2. And the Switch 2 version, actually being a free upgrade, gives you 1080p in handheld and 60 frames per second. I don't know if it does 4K in docked mode. I would guess so. I just don't know if it's... I would guess that even if it's 4K, it's probably upscaled 4K. But I mean, it was, a PS3 game. I haven't checked it out yet. I thought about maybe booting it up just for the sake of seeing, how it is. But I can already play it at 60 on the Steam Deck with a better screen. So I don't know. I might check it out more docked to see how it looks on there, since I still have the Switch 2. But yeah, that's you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a great thing. I think this is something that for the PS5 and Xbox, that's something that they should have received way sooner than now. But I mean, better late than never, and I mean, even better, it's free. So, and that's that. I mean, considering the fact of how many games will charge you or have some sort of fee for updates and upgrades, this is great that it's free. I guess to a degree, I feel like they could have taken more advantage of the hardware, because it looks like all of the systems are only getting up to 60 FPS. I know that at least for the Xbox and PS5, like, I don't see any reason why they couldn't be 120 frames per second. Especially if it's like, if they set it to 1080p, I have seen no reason why they couldn't have done it for that, because these are powerful pieces of hardware. Like you said, it's a PS3 game. Why not, have it running to the full extent? But I guess maybe just doing 4K 60 was easier for them, so they decided, let's just do that, call it a day. But I mean, at least it's 60. At least we're getting 60, so that's definitely good news. And also, great that the Switch 2 is also getting 60 frames per second as well. So, you can have that update as well. So I think that's good there as well. Yeah, not much more that I have to say on that, but good stuff though.
Yeah, something I do want to point out. Well, first of all, I just want to note that the footage that's playing right now is actually the PC version. It's just my the footage I recorded after I did my PC upgrade. So the footage is 1440p, 144 frames per second locked. So it's obviously not representative of what you'll see on the Switch 2. But even so, it's, you know, I'm still really glad to see that they're doing that for the Switch 2 version. And the particularly that if you already own the Switch 1 version, that it's a free upgrade, which is fantastic. That's really nice that they're doing that. But the other thing I wanted to point out is that the PS4 version of Red Dead Redemption that came out at the same time as the Switch 1 version actually already did 60 frames per second on the PS5. But as far as I don't believe it was 60. I mean, I don't believe it was 4K. If it was, it might have been just like a... I mean, it just wasn't the official like PS5 version of the game. It was still the PS4 version, just running better on the PS5. So, as far as I know, the versions that just came out are official PS5 and Xbox Series versions of the game. So, but yeah, it's a great game. I still need to get back to it and get back to the replay because I played it originally on PS3 and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've bought it a few times since then and played through it. Started it and not finished it multiple times. So, in fact, I never got very far in the few times that I've started it up since I got it. But yeah, I'll probably at least boot up the Switch 2, or boot it up on Switch 2 just to see how it looks and runs and get a good idea from that standpoint. I might even just like quickly do like an overhead video, just doing a quick comparison of the of how it looks on the Switch 2 in handheld mode versus like how it looks in docked or something. I don't know. Or actually, rather, how it looks on the Switch 2 versus how it looks on the Switch 1. Because I know it looks good on the Switch 1, just only runs at 30 frames per second. But the Switch 2, knowing that it runs at basically a locked 60, is really good. So, anyway, that is all I have on that front. All right. Well, I don't have any other topics to discuss tonight. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nah, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, looks like we'll have another shorter show this week. I'm sure next week, between the Game Awards and just really, especially next week because of the Game Awards, we will probably have a longer show. Maybe we try to start recording a little earlier if we can make that work. But regardless, I guess let's get into our recommendations and dissuasions. So why don't you start us off?
Alright, so my recommendation is going to be if you need to buy more storage, or if you feel like you could use more storage, I would definitely say do that now. It seems like that is going to possibly be another target of the RAM crisis, just because SSDs do have DRAM inside of them. So while the prices haven't gone up yet, it is highly speculated that those will be impacted soon as well. So I would definitely recommend that you get some if you can, while you can.
That's good to know. Yeah, I saw something. I mean, I just saw, like, I think it was just a poll from SpawnWave asking about, like, if you have an SSD or HDD, and I didn't know what it was about because I haven't really been paying attention to that, but that would make sense, and makes me glad that I have 12 terabytes of storage on my desktop right now, and 9 of those are SSDs. One is just a regular SATA SSD, and then the other 8 is from NVMe M2 SSDs, so I don't need any more storage. I'm good. Good shape. I mean, I had considered at one point trying to upgrade the storage on my laptop, but I just haven't bothered with it because I mostly use the laptop for doing stuff with the podcast and then a couple other random things, and I can use it for gaming. I don't use it for gaming very much these days, but At least it's an option. So anyway, as far as recommendations from me, first of all, I'm going to recommend that if you have a Switch 2 Pro controller and a PC, that you try out using that controller, because it is a very good controller. It's not going to be as good as the Steam controller, in my opinion, but it's still a really good controller. It's very comfortable. The back buttons are nice and they're customizable. And if you use it on Steam, you can even customize the C button. I still don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I'm going to find a use for it, dang it. Because I can. So, that's the first thing I want to recommend. The second thing I want to recommend is the YouTube channel Mauler. He does lengthy rants about movies and games and stuff like that, and he just put out an almost 18-hour long rant on Star Wars Outlaws, explaining in when I say rant, he explains in detail what's wrong with these things. And wow, this is the longest rant he's ever done. Usually like 1 to 2 hours, or if he has a multi-part thing, it'll be like a few 1-hour parts or something like that. But no, it's like 17 hours and 38 minutes of him going over everything that's wrong with this game. And all the, just like, wow. I had no idea how bad this game was, but it has been highly entertaining. I've been listening to it. I'm like, I want to say 5 to 8 hours into to listening to it. And I mean, I'm listening to the whole thing for sure, because it's fantastic. Plus, it's solidifying my decision not to buy this game. And he hasn't even talked all that much about the things about my issues with the game, because I didn't play that much of it. I only played like an hour of the demo. But yeah, it's just like, wow, this game's got a lot of issues. And I wonder, I mean, like, I don't think he ever did anything on like the recent Assassin's Creed games. And like, I think that for at least from what I played, like the recent Assassin's Creed games are way better. I don't know about Shadows, because I haven't played Shadows, but at least, when I look at both Odyssey and Valhalla, for everything that's definitely wrong with them, I still think they're pretty solid for the most part. I don't know yet about the story for Valhalla, and I have a feeling it probably will be kind of meh, but honestly, I don't care that much about the story. Like, I like having some of the intriguing stuff. Some of it is really interesting, and then some of it I'm just kind of like, meh. But either way, it's better than Star Wars Outlaws. So, nevertheless, I recommend that just checking out that channel. He's fantastic. Then lastly, I want to recommend Final Fantasy VIII. Specifically the remaster, but really any version. Just be aware that frame rate wise, it's not good, but the game itself, the story's good, the music's great, and it's a solid game. I enjoy it a lot, and I'm having a good time going back through. I mean, well, this is the first time I'm going through the remaster, at least continuing from where I left off last time I played, but this is like the 5th or 6th time I've gone through Final Fantasy VIII, so there's almost no change in terms of, well, there's no change in terms of the story and the overall gameplay. It's just visually it's a little better because of the character model improvements. Unfortunately, it's still only 4:3 aspect ratio, preserving the original thing, but it looks good on the Switch screen, the Switch OLED screen. So yeah, I've been enjoying myself. That's what I got for recommendations. So, dissuasions.
My dissuasion is going to be, do not buy the Steam VR, Steam Index. It's definitely takes a lot to just get started, I would say, and that is one of the issues that I've had. And I didn't mention this earlier, but at least in the VR menu, in the Steam VR menu area, it did seem a bit blurry at times. And initially when I set it up, it asked me if I wanted to that the refresh rate was at 90 and if I wanted to set to 120 hertz, and I said sure. But then I was like, it looks a bit too blurry. So I cranked it down to 90 hertz just to get that higher resolution, which I think was kind of a good trade-off there. But yeah, I mean, it looked better when I was like in Batman Arkham VR, but like it's definitely, I would say, dated to a degree. And again, with the newer headsets, whether you're talking about like Oculus, whether you're talking about HTC, or the PS2 VR or PSVR 2, like those are definitely going to offer you superior experiences, and you don't have to worry about this thing and setting up two of these things, and it'll be easier just to get things up and running. I mean, also the Steam frame is going to be coming out sometime next year, so you'll have a better experience with that as well. So there's definitely just better choices for you, like already in existence or upcoming. So definitely wouldn't get that unless you, for whatever reason, want to, see where Valve has come from and see where they're going, sort of like what I did, because I was just like, yeah, I would like to see like how Valve started and see where they're going with the Steam frame. Or you just wanted to have like some piece of Valve's history for whatever reason. But other than that, though, I really could not. I really say there's no reason to buy this at all, considering what it is. I mean, you technically also can't really get it complete anyway, at least not on the Steam store, since the full set is sold out and you can only buy like parts of it here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, just it's not worth it.
All right. Out of curiosity, are you planning to keep it long term, or are you gonna try to resell it?
I think I'll keep it just because I'm like, still, it is something that could be done. And while I don't know what instances I would do this, I have seen on Steam, or at least with some games I have, like co-op VR games. So
Okay.
I'm like, so if I get, I'm like, maybe if I, if I do get the Steam frame and for whatever reason I have someone, we could do some sort of co-op thing together with that. So I'm like, that's something I'd be willing to try out. So I could do that, but I'll at least hold on to it for historical reasons, sort of like what I did with the original Steam machine.
Okay. All right. Well, my dissuasion is specifically related to Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. If you are going to go for rare cards, playing Triple Triad, do not go for rare cards without saving your game before you go into a card match. Yeah, card match. Mostly because of the fact that if you lose a good card, then it can be a real pain to get it back. And if you happen to be stuck with the random rule where you don't get to pick your cards, that can make it that much more frustrating. So make sure that you don't go into a card match without first saving your game. And I think I had something else, but I honestly don't remember what it was, so it probably wasn't all that important. All right. Well, where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. I'm playing around with the idea of putting out a video this week, but honestly, it would just depend on if I feel like doing it, if I have the time. But either way, next Friday is going to be my Batman Arkham Origins live stream. Right now, I still have the tentative time for that at 7 p.m. Eastern time when that'll start. But yeah, I'll definitely try to play through the game again and see if I can beat it this time around without dying once. Got so close last year, but maybe this year I'll finally be able to achieve that feat. And I'll also make sure I'm ready this time and have like an energy drink or two, so that way I don't feel a little drowsy. But yeah. Oh, and I also have my other channel, Justin's Bible Blog. That's at Justin's Bible Blog. I have a video that I will put out tomorrow morning. I just have to get everything taken care of and upload it. But yeah, it's a verse from Ezekiel that I'll be covering. I think chapter 18. But just something that I read that I wanted to share on that. But yeah, that's everything that I have.
Sounds good. All right, well, you can find me on my YouTube gaming channel at the Frozen Gamer 87. There's nothing new that's been put up in a while, and I don't know when I'm going to get time to put together anything new. I'm hoping Christmas break that's coming up, because I do have about almost 2 full weeks off. I guess technically it is about 2 weeks, including the weekends. So I'm hoping to maybe get 2 or 3 things recorded during that time, but we'll kind of just play it by ear on that front. It'll probably be more like, for one, getting that controller review finally put together and put up, but then also potentially having 1 or 2 of those PC gaming videos that have been on the back burner for a while that I've been wanting to get done. So no promises, but I will I at least am hoping to get to those. I'm hoping that with that extra bit of time that I'll have the necessary, like I can set aside a day to just work on filming stuff and at least get started with the editing. Because once I get started with the editing, I usually am like on it. It's just mostly getting going. That's the hard part. So we'll see how that goes. There's also the YouTube channel and a Rumble channel for the podcast. That's at the Orange Box Podcast on YouTube, and on Rumble, it's not a custom URL, but you can still find the podcast there. The video version of the podcast goes live on there every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues. And the audio-only version goes live at 12 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues, on all major audio podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and any other audio podcast platform you can think of, most likely. So you can find it there very easily. Then there is my YouTube cooking channel, Not Authentic But Delicious. That's YouTube at NABD Cooking. Nothing new has been put up in close to a year now, but there's still some great recipes on there. If you still have some Thanksgiving leftovers, I recommend making that Thanksgiving leftovers pizza. It is excellent, an excellent recipe. We made it this past Friday after Thanksgiving, and it was fantastic. So good. So highly recommended. And I guess that is everything. Oh, one thing I do want to mention real quick. We actually did get a couple of comments on the latest episode of the podcast, and it wasn't anything like dramatic, but it was just basically, for starters, they consider your intro that you composed to be fire, which of course I totally agree with. And the other thing was just someone else commenting, let me bring that up here. They just said that they bought the Switch 2 when it came out and have not bought a game since, which, you know, I definitely understand that feeling. And right now I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to get back into everything about the Switch 2 right now. Nevertheless, I hope people continue to enjoy their Switch 2s that that have theirs, and that they don't make the mistake I did of buying one and regretting it. So, all right. That is everything I have. So, last chance. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast. And until next time, you too can run at 15 frames per second in battle and rant about something for 18 hours. Orange Box Podcast. Out.